So this is Associated Press today, and what we are looking at is basically karma. This is what we're looking at. I think this is when the things are interesting. See, a lot of people want things to happen overnight, but also what y'all have to remember is that things take time, especially with these jobs like this. These are serious jobs. These are government jobs. These are places of Congress. These are serious jobs. Like, my mom always told me that I would never be able to have a job like this if I continued to smoke some weed. And then as I continued to got older, she would tell me that the government would take me. And then who else? Then my aunt told me that the embassy would take me if I just got these languages down and shit like that. And honestly, I'm starting to feel like these motherfuckers can take me even with the marijuana, because look at these assholes you have accepted up here, okay? So you're going to see them asking questions. Basically, these people are in the hot seat because they can't get... These other people that are asking questions within the committee cannot get their job done because how these people are playing. So right off the bat, Tusi Goodart. You're probably going to hear me refer to her as Cruella. I really feel like this girl was tangling with the wrong people. And because you're going to see her mention Pete Hegseth a lot. Which Pete Hegseth clearly had a lot to do with this. But he's not there to receive the punishment. You are, babe. So unfortunately, she definitely should not have worn red. And I'm not trying to bash her outfit. But when you're negotiating for money, whether you're going for an interview, but right now she's not going for an interview. She's sitting to keep her job, which is negotiating for money. Now, when people are mad at you and they see that you're wearing red, either it's not going to help you get a promotion, it's not going to help you get the pay rate that you're trying to ask for, and if you're trying to get your job, it could help you to lose it quicker, because basically, like, if you're in an argument, don't wear red. Like, if you got to go to divorce court or something like that, don't wear red, and you need something to go in your favor, don't wear red. Because red makes somebody, like, mad like a bull. You know how, like, when they're doing the bullpen, and they have the bull in the pen, and they put the red in front of them, and it makes them more mad. So usually things will not go in your favor while you're wearing red. It's a little bit of business psychology for you real quick.
I'm reading from your classification guidance, and the criteria is information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack. Do you recall what your own guidance would suggest that be classified?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, but it would point to what was shared would fall under the DoD's classification system and the Secretary of Defense's authority.
So let me help you, because there's a very clear answer. You don't. I guess you don't have it, but information providing this is the ODNI guidance. Information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack should be classified as top secret. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. I just point out that the DoD classification guidance is separate from the ODNI's classification guidance.
Do you think it would be materially different?
Ultimately, the Secretary of Defense holds the authority to classify or declassify.
Do you think it's likely that DoD guidance is materially different from what I just read?
I haven't reviewed the DoD guidance.
A lot of this suggests sort of a lack of sobriety. When there's punch emojis and fire emojis, it's a lack of sobriety. I don't mean that literally. But I have one last question for you, because I think people really listen to what you have to say. You, on March 15th, as DNI...
And he's the ranking member, which means that he is permanently here, honey. Cruella, Miss Goodart, they're the newbies. And so you're seeing the people who've had their job for a long time go into the newbies. She had thrown little fire emojis, you know, like a joke. Like, as they're killing people is what she's joking about with this strike and little fire emojis.
Chung, who is listed on RT, that's Russia Today's website, as, quote, a political and cultural commentator who has contributed content to RT since at least 2022. Director Gabbard, do you think that it's responsible for you as head of the intelligence community and the principal's presidential intelligence advisor to retweet posts from individuals affiliated with Russian state media?
That retweet came from my personal account, and I would have to go back to look at the substance of the tweet.
Can I, just so that we don't have a lack of confusion amongst our allies and enemies and us, can I act perhaps that you not think that you should be saying one thing on your personal account than you say officially?
I maintain my First Amendment rights to be able to express my own personal views on different issues.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, and at the end of the day, what is most important is that the mission was a remarkable success, is what everyone should be focused on here, because that's what did happen, not what possibly could have happened.
Thank you, Director. And just really quickly, Director Ratcliffe, and I don't want to go over time. I think it's so important for everybody to have their time. Can you tell me the impact that Doge has had in causing you to fire people you shouldn't have fired, or release people who are instruments of national security no longer there? Tell me if you've had any impact specifically that Doge has caused you to lose someone who was necessary for national security.
Given the fact that as of this date, no one from Doge has been on the CIA campus, and I've had no direct communication with Doge other than conversations with Elon Musk at cabinet meetings, I would say the impact is zero.
Director Patel?
I'm in a similar situation. We do work with Doge on government efficiencies, but I have not seen any negative impacts at the FBI.
Thank you very much. And Director Gabbard, it's good to see you again, too. I think we were freshmen together, you and I and Director Ratcliffe, and I'm here and you guys are there. Have you seen any impact across the whole IC that Doge has caused things that you can't respond to?
Yeah. Thank you, Congressman. It's great to see you all again here. The answer is no. Similar with Director Ratcliffe, Doge has not been at ODNI. The president understands the essential national security mission that we have, and we are going through our own internal assessments to ensure we're achieving the effects in an efficient way that is responsible to the American taxpayer.
Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, yield.
Follow along with me. Doge, like Elon wants to say he has no affiliation, but he's getting sued because he basically has affiliation. But, right, I just think that's interesting. Of course you're friends with these people who are being suspected of spies and Benedict Arnold. And you had no impact. Everyone else had an impact. I'm pretty sure everyone else that went up in this committee, people got wrongfully fired and everything. Everyone else has had an impact. And so they're sitting up there kind of smiling like everything's cool. That, no, the FBI, no, the intelligence, national intelligence, no, CIA, no one had an impact. We're all good. Bullshit, because they came up in everyone else's unlawfully. Yeah, of course they didn't come up in yours. Because they're your fucking friends. And that's the wrong kind of friends. Your friends are helping you lose your job. Pete.
Y'all, the idea that this information, if it was presented to our committee, would not be classified, y'all know is a lie. That's ridiculous. I've seen things much less sensitive be presented to us with high classification. And to say that it isn't is a lie to the country. I want to ask the generals now. The NSA is principally in charge of intercepting things like signals intelligence from other countries. General, I want to ask you, if your organization, your agency, intercepted something like this from Russia or China or some other country, would you consider this classified information?
Representative, we would be classifying based off of our sources and methods. So those would be the things that, in terms of how we process, how we would be able to obtain the information and how we'd report it,
Sure.
we would classify based off of our source and method.
So if you knew that the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Advisor of Russia or China and the head of the Foreign Ministry and all of the folks who were associated with that signal chain, if you intercepted that information, General, would you consider it classified?
So it would be classified based off of our collection.
So the NSA would classify it, would
Based off
determine it
of
as classified.
the protection of our own source and method, not necessarily based off the content, but how we collected that information.
But it would be classified.
Well, we certainly wouldn't be collecting on a U.S. person conversation.
No, I understand. I'm saying if you did your job and collected it from the Russian Foreign Ministry and the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of Defense and the President's Chief Advisor, there is no way, having sat on this committee for 9 years, that somebody would come in with that information and give us something that says unclassified. You can walk out of this room with this information and give it to whomever you want. You know, with all respect, you and I worked on the committee at the same time. Tulsi, you and I came in together. I've never had an issue of beef with you. John, you and I are both from Texas. Y'all know that's a lie. It's a lie to the country. The unclassified version of the annual threat assessment the intelligence community just released makes no mention of any invasion or war that we are fighting with the nation of Venezuela. You would think our nation being at war would merit at least a small reference in this threat assessment. And Director Ratcliffe, does the intelligence community assess that we are currently at war or being invaded by the nation of Venezuela?
We have no assessment that says that.
Thank you. In addition, shut down the unit at the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency tasked with stopping Russian cyber attacks. There are so many other ways that the actions of this administration have contradicted this threat assessment, and the administration is making the world and the United States more dangerous. I yield back.
Gentleman yield. I'd like to show you the text that Secretary Hegseth actually published to the world. Now, Lieutenant General Cruz, as Ranking Member Himes said, it says, time now, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. Then it says at 12:15 Eastern, F-18's launch, first strike package. F-18s are military systems, correct? Weapon systems.
They are.
Okay. 1345, trigger.
Okay. So where people say that Democrats are not saying nothing, open your eyes. They coming through with billboard receipt size, poster size receipts. Like, this is a billboard receipt. Like, you driving by and you see a billboard of what the fuck you did. Like, he's right there talking about this is where you fucked around and this is where you fucked up. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that the kids are saying? The fuck around and found out. That's exactly what he's saying. This is where you fucked around, and this is where you have to find out. Like, where are people saying that where are people saying that the Democrats are not saying nothing? Like, they saying something loud as fuck. It's right here. And this is psychology, by the way, y'all. When somebody has done something wrong, you need to go ahead and show them, you know, what they exactly right after they had did it, where they had fucked up. Because I think it's 10 days after.
Based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. MQ-9s is a weapon system, correct?
They are.
Okay. I think applying the executive order as well as the DoD manual to this fact pattern, we clearly have weapon systems that have been identified. That is classified information. Now, the reason why it's important that this information not be disclosed is that we don't want the adversaries to know what's about to happen, right, sir?
Well, I would draw a small distinction there. You referenced and asked if that platform, those two platforms, are weapon systems. They are, but those terms are used all across the globe in a lot of contexts. So it's really about how they're used in the context of this particular document. I just want to clarify that the use of those terms,
I understand.
Yeah.
In this situation, those are operational details.
They are operational details, but again, as you quoted the DoD instruction, it's about operations. So as you further go down into what are the operational details, I think as we had a discussion yesterday, the important aspect, I think all of us are very familiar with.
This is classified information. This is classified information. It's a weapon system, as well as sequence of strikes, as well as details about the operations. And so I think that just piggybacking off of what some other members have said, using the DOD's manual as well as the executive order in operation today with the Trump administration, this text message is clearly classified information. Secretary Hegseth has disclosed military plans as well as classified information. He needs to resign immediately. He needs to resign immediately, and a full investigation needs to be undertaken with regard to whether other similar signal chats are occurring in this administration. I'd like to turn my attention to another topic. Director Patel, according to the DOJ, in 2022, the FBI-led Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, in my hometown of Chicago, valiantly led efforts to prevent a plot to attack Naval Station Great Lakes in Illinois. You don't dispute that, do you, sir?
I'm not familiar with it, but I don't dispute what you're telling me.
Thank you. A memo obtained by ABC 7 News of Chicago said that this task force will now be, quote, actively supporting, close quote, the Department of Homeland Security and its immigration enforcement. You don't dispute that either, do you?
I'm just not familiar with it, sir.
Okay. Sir, I just have to say, the DOJ has now tasked JTTFs to shift some resources to immigration enforcement efforts. And I don't say this lightly, if there's a terrorist attack anywhere in the country, including in Chicago, and it was because the JTTFs in part shifted resources, they'll be held to pay. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Georgia.
So that is Senator Krishnamoorthi, and he is from Illinois. And I mean, he's a Democrat. I enjoy him. I thought he put it together well, you know? Like right there, you know, he's just, some people fight with class.
They recently warned its employees not to use the Signal app. Is that correct?
What we did, Congressman, is we put out cybersecurity advisories on a whole host of systems.
On the Signal app that was included in that advisory, right?
What we've done is we've put out an advisory on how to use the Signal app and other encrypted applications, because we do encourage our employees and their families to use encryption.
Because there's risk to that app.
There are.
Okay. General Cruz, DOD also issued a warning about vulnerabilities to the Signal app recently, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Director Gabbard, you were on this Signal text chain in question, correct?
Yes.
As was Mr. Witkoff, the administration's lead negotiator with the Russians, correct?
Yes.
And at the time, Mr. Witkoff was actually in Russia during this chat discussion, was he not?
I was not aware of that.
Was he on his personal phone at the time?
I don't know.
Well, it's my understanding that he was indeed in Russia. Director Gabbard, you were also traveling during this discussion, correct?
Yes.
And where were you?
I was traveling through the Asia-Pacific region. I don't recall which country I was in at that time.
You don't remember the country?
I'd have to go back and look at the schedule.
Director Gabbard, I want to direct your attention again to the text chain where it says, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. Does that indicate to you that there is about to be a military operation?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, earlier in this hearing, we heard about the DOD's classification standards. I want to now turn my attention to your classification standards. You're the Director of National Intelligence. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence classification guide says, quote, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing for an attack, end quote, is to be classified as top secret. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, have the Houthis indicated an ability to shoot down American aircraft?
Yes.
They have in fact done so, haven't they?
Yes.
Including MQ-9 Reapers, haven't they?
That's correct.
And that was one of the systems used in the attack recently that's the subject of this discussion, is it not?
Correct.
General Cruz, are you familiar with this system?
I'm not wearing my glasses at the moment, but...
Well, I'll help you out. This is an SA-3 anti-aircraft system.
Correct.
Are you familiar with this next system?
I am.
What is it?
I'm going to have to ask you.
It's an SA-6.
I'm going to guess that.
This is also an advanced anti-aircraft system, is it not?
It is.
That's what he was gonna say. He was just gonna say that. The SA-6, he was just gonna say that.
It was used widely in the Balkans in the 90s, correct?
And the Houthis also have this system, don't they?
They certainly do.
And they've employed it against our aircraft, have they not?
They have attempted to, correct.
I spent my life in service to this country. I deployed 3 times to combat in service to this nation. I learned in that time in service that responsibility is core to leadership. You accept responsibility when things go wrong. You admit mistakes. You set the standard from the very top. It is completely outrageous to me that administration officials come before us today with impunity. No acceptance of responsibility. Excuse.
So, like, yeah, this impunity, this qualified immunity is made up. Qualified immunity that they made up for these police officers, they just did that like a couple of years ago. And you can be disqualified of your immunity. And this qualified immunity that Trump has really is just for Trump. It's not for his whole cabinet. And that's made up, and you can be disqualified of these things that are made up. And they just made it up this year in January. And you can be disqualified of it. But what these people need to keep in mind is that this is truly a privilege. The people who are sitting in the hot seat, Trump's cabinet, they really have to keep in mind that, like how Mr. Crow is saying from Denver, y'all guys got to keep in mind that, you know, you apparently get to get away with shit, and everyone up here doesn't have this immunity that you have. So they're not going to have it long.
After excuse after excuse, well, we send our men and women downrange to do incredibly difficult, incredibly dangerous things on our behalf. And yet, nobody is willing to come to us and say this was wrong. This was a breach of security and we won't do it again. It is outrageous and it is a leadership failure, and that's why Secretary Hegseth, who undoubtedly transmitted classified, sensitive operational information via this chain.
Where is Hegseth? Like, I know he's not working. Is he working and that's why he couldn't show up? You really want me to believe that? Maybe he
must resign immediately. There can be no fixes. There can be no corrections until there is accountability. And I'm calling on the administration to move forward with accountability. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman.
Dr. Brea, a Cali.
You know, when I walk into this committee and the honor of being on this committee, I don't see Democrats and Republicans. I see folks that every day want to do the same thing. But I would just offer advice in your role, what you do on your personal devices versus your official devices. You're speaking to the public, and I would just offer, you know, as I conduct myself, what I say personally is always going to be considered Congressman Brea saying it.
We do have to, in this committee, try as much as possible to remain nonpartisan as opposed to bipartisan. I can recall being that way when I was counsel on the House Ethics Committee, and it's a hard position to take. But I'm really struck by the fact that in December of 2023, many people made Secretary Lloyd Austin go through the stages of the cross in self-flagellation and mea culpas for not informing the president that he was having a surgery. And now how we're treating Secretary Hedgepeth as if he is untouchable. Mike Waltz, when he was a member of Congress, went in the Committee on Armed Services to talk about and slammed Austin for holding himself to a different standard than the American people. And yet we are not doing this across the board. And that's disappointing at the very least. Very disappointing. Director Gabbard, is Russia a friend or a foe? Are they our friend or our adversary?
They are an adversary.
Thank you. I believe that this reckless cuts make terrorism and our influence in Africa, which is on the front lines of terrorism, a real threat to us, and we need to be careful of it.
You repeatedly said you did not recall any discussion in the Houthi PC small group discussing operational details, strike targets, the type of vehicles and military units involved, or the timing and order of strikes. Do you stand by your testimony from yesterday that you do not recall any of the discussions regarding this type of classified information? Yes or no?
My response in the Senate yesterday, yes, I stand by that response. Obviously, the release of the screenshots that came from that chat group today were a refresher on what happened. As I said earlier, I was not involved with that portion of the chat, so it did not come to my recollection yesterday.
Thank you. So I take that as you stand.
She got amnesia. See, she said, obviously, when I saw the screenshots yesterday, now I remember what happened. Damn. Just selected with it.
And by your do not recall yesterday stance when you were asked those questions. You've been in office 43 days. Director Radcliffe has been in office 62 days. This was considered the first major military operation using lethal force of the Trump administration. Was this the first? This was probably the first time that you've been involved with a discussion like this on a thread. It was not discussing. You were not on a group chat discussing where we're going to go for lunch. You're discussing putting men and women of the armed services in harm's way. That's a major decision. So, and when did that happen? 10 days ago? Okay, I'll answer that. It happened 10 days ago. Here's the point.
Senor Gomez, Massachusetts. You're such a gentleman. I'll answer that.
Magnitude is something that you would not forget. It's something that most people, if you're taking this job so seriously, that you would not forget. I mean, since I've been on this committee, there's been days that I have woken up in the middle of the night from the things I learned in SCIF. So decide.
SCIF is the communication that they were supposed to be using instead of Signal for conversations like this.
To use military force is something hard to imagine. So the do not recall.
Of course, the reason why they're not using SCIF is because the rest of the committee and everybody else would have stopped them from doing whatever they're planning to do. Because what they're planning to do is obviously some type of coup. And they're not moving fast enough.
All doesn't pass the smell test. It's unbelievable that was the case. So that's what the American people don't understand. And I know a lot of folks in this administration were saying that they're going to take on the establishment and drain the swamp. But you have become that swamp in a matter of days, not weeks or months, days. So one of the things we're going to look into is what actually occurred. Because the American people deserve a full accounting. Additionally, the main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to... I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community...
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So, of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful strike?
Back. I bring my...
What? First of all, the strike was not successful. I want to make many points. He yielded back. First of all, my time, motherfucker, my time. My time. He's so Latino. My time. He ain't playing, bro. He ain't playing. He about to get to the matter or something. He about to get to the meat. He about to get to the heart of the matter. And he about to fix it. My time. My time. First of all, the way her face looks, she has such a straight face. Good art, she has just such a straight face. But she has a little bit of smirk on her face. But she has such a straight face where she says she's not sure of his habits. Yes, she is. But she's got a real good face. Like, what job? I didn't look her up, but was she in the military or something? What job did she have to do that she had to have such a good face? She switches her face real quick because at the end it gets kind of sad. Like how she has, how you have to push an emotion. But this guy right here, Ratcliffe, you already know he knows the habits of Pete Hegseth because why are you getting defensive over somebody's habits that are not yours? We're talking about somebody else who you work with. Talking about, I think this is defensive, and you don't want to look at the good work that the CIA is doing. No, because we're too busy paying attention to all the fucked up work that you're doing right now if you ain't paying the fuck attention, because obviously you ain't.
You want to know? You want to talk about accepting responsibility? Do you think you should accept
my time?
One more thing, accepting responsibility. He needs to get a breathalyzer himself, because the fact that he's getting so defensive when we're asking about somebody else's habits, we do have a right to ask these questions. And, he's asking, why are you asking these questions like this? Because what the behavior that you're moving in has set off an alert. And this is the alert that you're going through right now. This committee, this is what this is called. I'm breaking it down in layman's terms for y'all. This is the alert. So what you don't understand is that he's going to be asking you every question. Every question. And we have a right to ask about his drinking habits. It is going to prohibit the way. He's got to get a breathalyzer every time he's doing something. Every time he get in the car. Every time he go to work or something. It's going to prohibit the way that he functions. He has a serious job, man.
Responsibility for a successful strike to make Americans safer?
I reclaim my time. So here's the thing. This is serious. As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure phone call, the least secure text messaging. And we know that your people are Russians, China.
Oh my God. How funny. Now, first of all, people have to admit that throughout history, a lot of people have advertised things on a lie. So just because some people say things doesn't really mean that you can believe it. Like when they first started advertising donuts, they said that they were healthy until they found out that they weren't. They used to have Coke and Coca-Cola, So like he's saying, they advertise that it's secure if you call people, but not secure if you text. But look, first of all that is bullshit anyways. I want to break it down for you anyways, because if you text or if you call, if you send a video on Signal, Snapchat, Telegram, all those encrypted messages, if you send anything that has to go through the internet, it's saved on the server somewhere on the internet. All they have to do is just find whoever holds that server. Subpoena the records, boom, bada boom, there you go. So they know that they were supposed to use a skiff, but they didn't pay attention on training day.
These are on your phone.
His time's expired.
Congressman, I guess,
You just talked all throughout Senor Gomez's time. Why do you shouldn't get no time, because he gets to respond though, but you shouldn't get no time. Right after this.
It's a general reflection here, again, that for the last 2 days, members of the intelligence community have been asking questions about a signal messaging group and not asking questions from Democrats either in the Senate.
For this signal shit, you are not sorry. And it was not a mistake. Because if it was, you would have thought about what... See, now you're just sorry that you're upset that you got caught. Alright? And you're trying to weasel out of it somehow. But if you had really felt like it was wrong and you were sorry about what you were doing in that moment, then at that time you wouldn't have done it. You wouldn't have engaged in this signal shit. You would have said, no, guys, I'm not going to... That's not work. I don't need to be involved in that. Or like they're going to say later within the video, you could have done an investigation yourself and then you wouldn't have been in the mix with this. So, no,
House on China, Russia, Iran, and the real threats that are going on to the United States. And you can say that you care about the good work that agencies are doing like the CIA and that you care about 140 stars on the wall. But no one's asked me about my second day on the job here, where I lit the fuse that led to a foreign government participating with us to capture one of the senior planners of the Abbey Gate bombing that killed 13 Americans. And in the process, we worked with a government that previously...
No offense, because nobody cares about that, and you're a bit bragging, and that's something small, and especially compared to the rest of the people that are within this board and this committee, and how long they've been there, and some of the things that they've done. So, write that in the journal, write that in the diary, boy.
And so that hadn't cooperated with us on counterterrorism matters. Or the fact no one has focused on that within an hour of that taking place, I was on the phone with Director Patel, and a few hours later with Attorney General Bondi, working together, the IC and the FBI working together to bring this person home in less than a week. Unprecedented success for the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. Exactly representative of the kind of work that we should be doing and the kind of work that an oversight committee should be asking about. But instead, we're getting questions about whether or not someone has drinking habits.
I have to back that up. Is he on that level of a narcissist? He's saying that you're supposed to be asking me about my rewards. You're not supposed to be asking me about where I'm fucking up. Really? Are you really? No, what he doesn't understand is that when everything's going well, you don't hear shit. That you want things to be nice and quiet. Now when you're actually like when things are going well, you get promotions, but they wouldn't be like this. And it would be like, fucking years of putting in some work.
Kind of work that we should be doing, and the kind of work
you haven't even done
an oversight committee should be asking about. But instead, we're getting questions about whether or not someone has...
They're newbies. You're a newbie. I guess he doesn't understand that. You're brand new. What did Senor Gomez said that he had been he had worked for 62 days and Coella had worked for 43. Miss Tulsi Goodart, she's worked for 43. You guys, like the probational period for most places are 90 days. So you have to try and be good the first 90 days. You guys have came in and you've just opened up a can of whoop ass. Like, what's up with that? He doesn't understand that you are the threat. You're being looked at as a threat. You're a perceived threat because the way that you're behaving. And quit playing because you've been acting like a threat. And you really think that now you're going to be able to be like, mercy me. And they're just going to be like, okay, sure. What you're going to do is you're going to continue to do the bullshit that you're doing. So yes, they need to go ahead and let all these people go right now. You're a threat. You are the threat. It's not whoever you're saying that you're fighting against. You have made that up. You're become friends with the enemies. You are the threat. Let's go to Pennsylvania.
With Director Ratcliffe, I find it offensive for you to accuse me as a Democrat of not caring about national threats. I very much wanted to talk about those. In fact, had prepared questions in advance of this hearing about those threats, specifically about biosecurity and bioterrorism, but I don't have time to ask those questions because the threat is in the House. The threat is across the dais, and I need to ask these questions. It's my job to ask these questions of you. Because when I served in the military and I served in classified environments, had this happened to me, I would have walked my resignation in immediately. This is not okay. Communicating these sorts of things in Signal is not okay. Targets, times, those kinds of things are absolutely classified, and we all know it. I know it. These people know it, you all know it. And the fact that we're having to have these conversations now means that I can't ask the questions that I need to ask about things like bioterrorism and biosecurity. And so I'd like to put you in check as well, sir, because you can't assume who I am any more than I can assume who you are, sir. I would like to move my questions, however, over to Director Gabbard, because
What they all don't understand is that they have set off an alert. There's a security breach. So now they have to look. They're all looking at them mad. They don't understand why. Because maybe this job is above your head.
35A, and this committee on a bipartisan, apartisan basis requires you, the DNI, to swiftly notify Congress and the Intelligence Committee if you're aware of any sort of significant unauthorized disclosure or compromise of classified information, which I would argue this has all of the markings of being that. And so if you, as the DNI, see such a thing anywhere within your organization's purview, you have the obligation to begin an investigation to report back to us on that. Would this seem to qualify to you as something worthy of that investigation?
Thank you for your question, Congresswoman. In this situation, Secretary Hegseth has the classification and declassification authority over DOD information.
This chat did not have the auspice of being a DOD chat. There's no such thing as labeling it as DOD. This was a chat amongst a great variety of people, and you, according to our law that we passed here bipartisanly, have an obligation when you think there has been
like just like woman to woman, which is very nice. Like Lex, you're saying, if you had called this as an investigation, if you were never a part of this somehow, or if you're you had communicated in that text, but then you had went and called for an investigation, you wouldn't be a part of this. You would be out of this.
a tangible, significant leak of information to instigate an investigation. Do you not think it's important to do such a thing?
Well, the National Security Council is investigating this inadvertent leak. And again, I point to Secretary Hegseth as having the classification.
I would argue Secretary Hegseth, if he had the dignity that he needs to have, should be walking his resignation in, because I believe that his probably is heading toward being relieved of his duty based on what I think are significant and illegal leaks, most likely. I would like it if you would please commit to this organization that you will follow the law. And I would like it if you would also investigate what is likely to be more than just this chat. Because if there's one, there's more than one. If there's smoke, there's fire. Would you please obligate yourself and your organization to that investigation?
Yeah, Congresswoman, yes, I will follow the law.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Director Patel, I learned just recently that you only heard about this yesterday, which blows my mind since I heard about it 2 days ago, and I'm just a low on the dais, junior chipmunk here. Did you really only hear about this yesterday?
The exact timeline I'm not aware of, but yeah, I think it was yesterday or the night before.
And now that another day has passed, do you believe...
Actually, it was the night before the hearing.
Now that another day has passed, do you believe that it's now time potentially for the FBI to open an investigation into this?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Because you're the director of the FBI?
You're not going to comment on that. I mean, it's hard for him to give an answer when he's racist and sexist. And then, look, dude, Patel, this is Kash Patel, who said normalize Indian hate, all right? So, as we look at Patel, he's Indian, okay? Let me look up exactly what type of Indian. They say he's an immigrant of Indians. Like, Indians, dude. Normalize Indian hate? What? There's people who love your culture. What are you talking about? And then, I love the colors and everything. It's crazy. I'm black. I'm Black Cherokee. I'm Eastern Black Cherokee. Okay? And I'm West Indies, I like to call it. And he's East Indies, I like to call it. Okay? So he's Indian. He's Hindu. Please go Google it, where he said normalize Indian hate. He's talking about both of us, even though he was talking about himself. He was doing it for Trump approval, like people like to say. He's talking about both of us. But, I mean, once you say a comment like that, people are, that's self-hate. That's hating on your own race. That is racism. See, what people are confused about racism is that, you know, I tend to want to stay away from white people because of how violent some tend to be. But I'm not at a level that I want them to be dead. I just want to stay away. So what they don't understand about racism is that they hate someone so much, they don't want to stay away from them. They want to figure out how to get close to them and kill them. That's what constitute as the racist. That's what constitute as that hate going to an extreme level. But I mean, it's going to be hard for him to answer Miss Houlahan because she's smart, she's a woman, and to him there's a perceived power that he doesn't have, so he feels weak. And that's why he's saying, I'm not going to comment on that. Dude, it's just a yes or no. Just give it. Just give it. But he's not going to do that because he doesn't feel that when you're sexist and racist, you don't feel that a woman deserves an answer.
You don't believe it's appropriate to comment on that?
Because there's a process in place, there's an ongoing litigation, and the National Security Council is reviewing this matter. And I'm not going to discuss any open or closed investigation.
That ongoing investigation, literally, the law...
He's the FBI, and he's supposed to work hand in hand with the CIA, and he has a job where he's supposed to be able to breach, be able to legally be nosy. He's supposed to be able to know when shit like this is happening, and he doesn't even know when his own friends are doing it.
It happened today or yesterday afternoon, and the idea that you don't have an opinion on this at this point is frustrating to me.
No, it's not. I'm not going to prejudge any matters, and the men and women of the FBI will call the balls and strikes,
reclaiming my time,
not
sir.
you.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have...
Gentleman's recognized. You have 4 seconds remaining.
No, I have more than that.
2 seconds
Mr.
remaining.
Patel would not add...
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director...
From Pennsylvania. And, yeah, what this best that, you know, the FBI are gonna call the balls and the strikes, not you. Well, no offense, Patel, but you kind of like how Trump was saying to Zelensky that he's not in a position to be saying certain things and all that, when that is completely rude and wrong for him to say. You are about to be relieved of your duty, this seat that you're sitting in, Patel. So you don't, talking about, you know, you're going to be calling the balls, you and the FBI, and not her. Well, your department isn't functioning well. You're going to be surprised that she is going to be able to call the shots. And it's not going to be you, Patel, with the way that you're acting. And it's crazy to me that y'all have such serious jobs and you don't understand the magnitude and how classy you have to be. How mature you have to be. You can't be, like, y'all are filibustering. You are throwing your balls around, and you can't be that way.
Director Gabbard, your position was created post 9/11 because of the horrible intel failure that took place there, where we weren't sharing information. It wasn't adequately shared within the community and between our allies. We have to believe that our allies look at this as a colossal mistake, and or at least hesitate to a certain extent, wanting to share sensitive information with us that keeps us safe, because they're worried about their sources and methods as well. Wouldn't you be at least somewhat concerned that our allies would look at this and say, that wasn't the perfect way to communicate?
No, because I like to tell everybody my secrets. Okay.
Congressman, thank you for the question. If that information that was put out in the chat by the Secretary of Defense had included specific sources and methods and targets and names, then the answer would be yes, but that was not the case.
There, because there's such a limited time. Generals, look, you're here because you got tough spots, so I have to put you on the spots. You're passing information like this just within your agency, and you know that it's going to include, we are go for mission launch, Houthis, sea lanes, the information about the weapon systems. That gets to the Houthi military commanders. Doesn't it make you think they're at least going to say duck?
Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on the issue. Yes, if we were collecting this on our adversaries and we're able to get this information, as was asked of General Hawk earlier, we would consider that classified, but it's classified under the collection piece. The data that we're talking about here is the operational data, not the intelligence data.
Respectfully, sir, just because we have limited time.
Secretaries.
The Houthis military leader's going to duck when he hears this, or he's going to take some action, or he's going to try to shoot our planes down, right?
Respectfully, they can't keep lying, just yes or no. Don't keep lying, because we ain't got much time to be hearing the things that they had made up and stuff, and how they're going to be like, I can't really answer it because I can't really answer, and I can't really answer because I can't really answer, and then I can't really answer because I can't really answer time, I can't really answer time, I can't really answer.
Maybe they don't use Signal on this. Are there other forms? Obviously, they're going to be more secure.
What I would offer is the data that we would be passing would be the full target packages and the full set of operational information.
Okay, but even if it was just this, do you really want to give the possibilities that they could be breached, hacked, and they would get this information? Wouldn't you, even with just this, sir, respectfully, wouldn't you want to use a more secure means of communicating?
I think what I would offer two things, and hopefully they're helpful to you. One of them would be, in addition to that full package that we would talk about, when the Secretary extracted individual details from that and provided those on Signal, whether individually or in aggregate, that is his decision of what is classified and what is not from an operational aspect. And that's probably the most important relevant piece to there. And I would echo what we've said before. It's the Secretary's authority for the...
Just give me, there's more secure ways of communicating any of this, right?
There are. In our most important relevant piece to there, and I would echo what...
They keep throwing Pete under the... Because that's who they keep saying. They keep saying it's Pete's authority to start these things. It's Pete's authority to do this and to do that. And even though it is, you shouldn't go along with it. You didn't have to stay in that chat. Y'all can't. You could have removed yourself from that chat. You could be like, I don't need to be here.
There's more secure ways of communicating any of this, right?
There are. And our adversaries have...
General, there are, right?
To intercept.
There's much more secure means that you use, even if you don't think that this is, or you don't want to stick your head out.
What I would say is the full packages were transmitted within classified, within traditional classified.
But this could have been transmitted in a classified way as well. Thank you.
On the record, Director Patel, I co-chair the Americans Wrongfully Detained American Hostage Task Force here in the House, and I just in fact left Tigran Gambaryan, a former FBI official who I helped get out of prison in Nigeria last year. I just left him a few minutes ago. You've been, this issue very, very well, and President Trump's made such a commitment to...
That sounds like that was his friend, not someone who wrongfully, kind of like, sort of, Jorge, not Jorge, Jose Reyes Barrio, the young man who just got wrongfully deported. He's Venezuelan. Y'all heard about the story. And he went to the worst prison that you could go to in El Salvador. So they're talking about going to go with, work with the embassy and going to go free people, that wrongfully got deported, that wrongfully are arrested overseas. So don't you think that it would be better if you didn't continue to deport people and continue to hunt people and make it worse? So as of today, let me go to this one story. Her name, Miss Chung. Anybody who's paying attention to the story of Miss Chung, how they were hunting her. And some people fled and went to Canada to avoid persecution here in America. And this young girl here, she's 21, and she came when she was 7 years old, and she's a citizen. She's almost finished. And so ICE began to hunt her, manhunt her. And see, the thing about it is, I see majority of the women that they're manhunting, especially here in Florida, a lot of Latino women. I saw a black man who they took his daughter, and they were just about to send her over to the border, and they found her in California. So this girl was running, but she sued she sued Trump so that she could avoid being deported. Why are you hell-bent and trying to get someone like this? Like, she's a college student. What type of information does she have that's more sensitive than what y'all have? She's not the only one that the judge was able to freeze ICE deporting her. Also, Khalil as well. He's in Louisiana though, and they were able to freeze that too. So it's not like nationwide where they're freezing ICE deportations. It's only certain people's cases that they're able to do it so far. And so that's of March 26th of today. Today's the 26th. How are you going to go get these people when you guys are continuing to perpetuate the problem? You're continuing to add to the problem.
Who are you working with? Is there a way that we have got a way to handle this with foreign terror threats? And I say this in light of my district specifically, where New York State, led by Democrats, by the way, is notorious for their, unwillingness to work with, law enforcement. Under Governor Cuomo, we cut off the ability. I know Congressman Quigley talked about working together after 9/11. The state hit hardest by 9/11, and Governor Cuomo put in a law that prohibited law enforcement from working together in 2019. What are we doing so we can work with New York, the government, and others?
I mean, I can't stop watching where I am. I'm in Atlanta. They just released a video of some police brutality of this white guy who tased a black man on I-285, broke his leg, tased him, killed him. The Brinks truck showed up, so I mean, that kind of makes sense why Cuomo doesn't want the police, getting involved in the way that they are. And they don't have guns in New York because of the gangs of New York back then. And I mean, doesn't seem like it's stopping the brutality, though.
To make sure that this doesn't happen across our New York northern border?
Well, one, and this is out of my lane, but what we need to be doing is working with the Canadian government because they sit on top of our...
This is out of his lane.
Northern border. We do have the problem of tyranny of distance and sheer geography as compared to the southern border. But when we were told that the Mexican government would not work with us, we overcame that hurdle, and we've seen the immediate results, as I highlighted to your colleague about northern.
They overcame that hurdle. They saw immediate results where they made a lot of BS arrests, kind of like Senor Barrio. And they would have compared themselves to Biden, but Biden has way too many cases that were proven due process.
Border contacts with KSTs versus the southern border. The other thing we can be doing is working across every northern border state who has a geographic border with increase in resources to cover down on that the way we do in Mexico.
In addition, thank you for that. In addition, with working with the Canadians,
they want the same resources up there in Canada like they have down there in Mexico. The same muck that they want to run down there in Texas and Mexico is the same muck that they want to do up there in New York, which is interesting. Now, I stay, when I'm in Detroit, I stay right next to the Ambassador Bridge. And it's not a muck up there. And the border is locked down. The border is locked down. The border's locked down, and the border's locked down. And you think that it's locked down because the American side? No. Canada has that locked down, and they don't have no wall. They don't have no wall. I really don't think they want a wall or need a wall so they can see everything visually. They don't need none of that mess. They don't have no wall. But, yeah, the border to Canada is locked down, and they do plenty of business, so... I guess it must be, I have not been to New York, so it must be more, especially not upstate New York, it must be more of an issue, as this woman is saying, than it is in Detroit. But in Detroit, it's locked down. And some people even believe a myth that, if you're homeless, that you can walk across and get across. No, Canada's going to come across and look for your, they want to see your passport. And or any type of just use your passport. And if you don't have that, they just send you back. So it's not like these people are saying. It's really not that easy to hop the border as these people are saying.
Are you also working with the New York State government? Because we do have a number of interesting assets. A sprawling Akwesasne Mohawk Reservation that kind of goes across the northern border with New York.
Mohawk Reservation. Don't I feel like everybody knows, but I guess people don't, that New York was stolen from the Mohawk tribe. And they said that the Dutch said that the Mohawk gave it to them as a gift. And then they called it New York. But the Dutch do that as everything. They go around taking, in the past, especially Dominican Republic, the Dutch masters. That's why people stopped smoking Dutch masters, the blunts. Because in the past, they went around taking everything. And then they wrote down in history saying that, oh, it was a gift. No, it wasn't no goddamn gift.
York and Canada, or those types of things. Ways that you can work with the New York government and also in coordination with the Canadian Royal Police.
Absolutely, ma'am, and you highlight a great point. A lot of the northern...
Canada's not going to work with you. Canada's not going to talk to you because you're friends with Trump. So, Canada's not going to talk to you. Period. And if I was Canada, I would not talk to you. Period. You mean no good for us. Period. And you mean no good for yourself and your own country. You don't have the brains to get that. Now, some people are saying that they think that they're not stupid, that they're evil. No, man. Some stupidity is worse than evil because they don't realize the harm that they're doing, and you're trying to teach them and they're not getting it. It's like you're administering medicine to the dead.
Border touches upon tribal lands, and we need to work with tribal leaders throughout the country as effectively as we do with state and local governments. And at the FBI, we're doing just that.
Thank you so much. And
why things like that piss me off is because let me show you the type of help that they're doing right now.
Viewer discretion advised. The video that you're about to see is not only disgusting, it's disturbing, it's inhumane, and it'll never be okay. This type of behavior will never be okay. Oh my God, what the fuck? Did I want to take him in the ambulance? What the fuck? Now, this is Christian Lawrence Vasquez Stein, 17 years old, and what you just witnessed was his body. Yeah. Being pulled in the public, across the streets, and that is in Barrow, Alaska. This young man took his life, and that is how they proceeded to take his body. It's disgusting. I'm tired of asking for justice and equality. It's time that we demand it. Now, his sister made a post. This also was sent to me before. His sister made a post. She was not blaming the mayor, but let's see the county, the officers who were in charge of this. This is disgusting. This cannot happen. A 17-year-old took his own life and is dragged on display like a piece of trash. This will never be okay. This is not okay. If it was your loved one, you would not be okay with that. So let's try to help the family out and get them justice in any means possible. Share it out to the right people, and let's get this family justice.
Yeah, so I'm leaving the video off on that note because this is the type of serious stuff that these people are trying to continue to do. These people have already come through and pillaged and raped. And when they came through to America, when the colonizers come through, they have done stuff like that. And the last time I have known for someone to be dragged by a vehicle like that is Arsenio, the little sister of Cleopatra, and Mark Antony is the one, and that was a horse and carriage, but still. That's considered an insult when you are carrying someone, whether they're alive, which is a horrible way to pass, or whether they've already passed, and you're carrying their body like that. Like a normal way is to put them in the ambulance, or I don't know why he wasn't on the bed of that truck, but when you're pulling someone's body like that, whether they're passed or alive, that's an insult. And that's saying an insult to the people around on purpose. And so when I started, I don't tell too many people that I have Native American blood within me, but when I started learning that I'm a descendant of Cherokee, when I realized why the colonizers was coming was because most of the Native Americans were colored like me. They were black like me, and that was a meaning for a slaughter. And that was one of their meanings for the slaughter. And so I have learned that they're very racist towards black people, but they're worse to Native Americans. And why do I think that? Because they tried to genocide them. They tried to slaughter them. Those people in the past actually thought that they would be able to completely wipe out race like Cherokee and the other nations. And the truth is that you cannot do that. You cannot just wipe out people like that. And I feel that they're still trying to do that today. And we are still here. And we're going to continue to be here. And we're going to continue to say what you're doing and what you did.